The briefing room fell silent as satellite feeds flickered Redivary route into the canyon ended in death. The team gathered around the holographic table, the cold glow casting long shadows over tense faces. Captain Elias Ward leaned forward, square shoulders rigid, eyes scanning the topographical projections. Drones hovered over the canyon on the displays, their programmed patrol loops marking the only paths forward, each one flashing failure warnings. Before we begin this mission, hit subscribe and ring the bell, because some stories of courage never made the headlines, but they deserve to be heard. Tell us where you're watching from and who's the hero in your family. Mission Command's analyst, Major Celine Armitage, spoke with clipped precision. Dr. Volkov is being held in the North Compound. Autonomous drones maintain a 90-second patrol cycle. Seismic sensors line every corridor. The canyon has 2 choke points. Attempting entry is considered highly inadvisable. Jonah Pike, known as Circuit, ran a trembling hand over the console, eyes darting from drone feed to satellite overlay. We've tried every approach. The canyon's crosswind is 22 knots westward. Every infiltration map ends in a dead zone. There's nothing we can do without a direct strike. Even the air support will only get us so far. Ward shook his head slowly, voiced low and harsh. No, I will not authorize a suicidal entry. Not for a single scientist. Not for a mission this reckless. We're already exposed by elevation 3,200 feet up, every meter a line of fire. You want volunteers? Fine. But I'm not sending my team to certain death. A quiet tension settled over the room. The hum of the holographic map mingled with the low, throbbing pulse of the base's ventilation. Pike's lips parted, ready to argue, but Ward's glare cut him short. Every eye in the room followed the flickering markers that spelled impossibility in crimson letters. Red dots on black terrain overlaid with failed route notifications made even the bravest soldier pause. Then the radio crackled, soft and impossibly calm. A voice, barely above a whisper, cut through the sterile silence. I'm already in. Every head jerked toward the panel. Ward's jaw tightened, disbelief etched across his features. Circuit's mouth fell open, eyes wide with awe and panic in the same moment. Armitage's fingers froze mid-gesture over the keyboard. Channel Blue, Ward asked, leaning close to the receiver, voice taut. HAVOC6, this is Ghost Line, Channel Blue, confirmed secure. The voice was calm, deliberate, like she had rehearsed these words for every impossible scenario. The room shifted. 12 hours prior, this operator Maya Rios, call sign Ghost Line, had infiltrated the canyon alone, without authorization, without backup. The impossible now existed in reality. Ward's fists clenched on the edge of the table. She couldn't. His voice faltered, disbelief battling fury. She couldn't have gone in without detection, not alone, not with drone coverage every 90 seconds. Circuit swiveled his chair, tracing the holographic loops. She bypassed the sensors. Somehow, look at the paths. No signature, no thermal trace, nothing. She's moving under our own drone's noses. Armitage exhaled slowly. Her calm facade stretched thin. If she's in, we have to assume she knows the terrain better than anyone here. She's already adapted to the wind, the elevation, the patrol cycles. We're essentially playing catch-up. Ward's mind raced, weighing every scenario. Loyalty to his team, the rules, the protocols, all of it, clashed with the stark. Undeniable fact, Ghost Line was inside a drone-patrolled labyrinth, alone with the target in her hands. The room's red glow mirrored the rising tension, and for a moment, All that could be heard was the muted hum of hovering drones and the near imperceptible flicker of holographic maps. "Bring me every feed," Ward ordered, voice sharper, "every sensor, every drone loop. I want to know where she is, every meter, and tell me she's still alive." Armitage's hands moved with meticulous precision, overlaying thermal scans with route projections. "We have partial signal bounce from her come, weak but consistent. She's moving along the western ridge, 12 hours in. No contact until now, probability of engagement minimal. But if Harlan's drones detect her, she didn't finish. No one needed her to." Circuit swallowed hard. She could be anywhere. Every route we would have tried dead ends. She's already rewriting the map in real time. Ward's stare softened for a fraction of a second, his anger giving way to a grudging respect. "She's taking every risk we refused to authorize, every calculation, every contingency, already executed, and we're here, staring at red markers, debating if we can even follow her in." The reality settled over the room like a cold wind. Ghostline was a ghost in the canyon, a single operative redefining what was possible. The mission that had seemed doomed now had a lifeline, but at what cost? Every protocol ignored, every rule bent. One woman had stepped past the line between obedience and audacity, and the rest of the team had no choice but to follow. Ward exhaled, his jaw loosening, eyes scanning the projected canyon terrain. Get her exact location, prepare air cover for extraction points and circuit. Calculate every possible escape corridor she might need. She's our only chance. Circuit nodded, fingers flying over the console. The maps shimmered, red paths giving way to new potential routes. The room vibrated with tension, every heartbeat counting against time, against the canyon, against the drones that patrolled with silent precision. Armitage leaned back, voice measured but heavy. "This mission, it's already in motion, and it's beyond our control." Ward's gaze hardened, determination settling like armor. "Then we follow her, because if she's in, there's a way." The impossible had already begun. The next hours would determine if Ghostline's lone initiative would save Dr. Volkovor, leave her trapped in the canyon forever. Ghostline's breath barely fogged the mask as she slid beneath the drone's shadow, counting its rotor beats like a metronome of death. The interior corridors of the canyon facility were a maze of steel and reinforced concrete, narrow and unforgiving, every wall lined with sensors that could detect the faintest thermal variation. She moved with measured precision, a small pack clinging to her back, improvised thermal dampeners strapped across her arms and chest. Each step was calculated, each pause deliberate, and each corridor turn risked detection from the quadrotor sentries, sweeping the hallways in 90-second loops. She could feel the pulse of the facility as if it were a living entity, the hum of the drones above and the low, distant rumble of ventilation systems provided a rhythm she matched in her own heartbeat. 12 hours inside, and Ghostline had already memorized the elevation shifts, the angles of crosswinds at 22 knots westward through open vents, and the likely patrol vectors of the drones. Every decision she had made until now had been solitary, improvisational, and surgical. Back at Mission Command, Captain Ward and Circuit were coordinating their own plays against the facility. 2 A-10 Warthogs were airborne, holding a calculated 2.1-kilometer standoff for diversionary strikes. Circuit's fingers danced across the console, overlaying thermal feeds with predicted drone routes and wind drift patterns. The soft glow of the screens reflected in his wide eyes. Blue flare, inbound. "Mark your position," he called over the comm, voice taut with tension. Ward gritted his teeth, monitoring Ghostline's brief, intermittent signal bounce. Every second accounted for. Every maneuver counted. Inside, Ghostline reached the sector where intelligence indicated Dr. Volkov was being held. The scientist was chained to a reinforced floor panel designed to trigger a seismic alarm if disturbed. Ghostline knelt, assessing the mechanism, fingers tracing the cold steel, eyes scanning the shadows. She had brought a wedge designed to equalize pressure across the sensor grid, a small gamble on equipment that might fail. The faint hum of nearby drones vibrated through the floor, a constant reminder that one misstep would trigger alarms and unleash the full security network on her. A sudden chime on her panel made her freeze. The system had detected an anomaly. Across the canyon, Harlan, the enemy security commander, had rerouted the drones inward, compressing patrol paths and leaving almost no safe corridor for extraction. Ghostline's jaw tightened. Time had shortened. The stakes had doubled. She needed a way out, and fast. Using the secure uplink she carried, she began transmitting a partial map of the interior compound, overlaying escape shafts and maintenance corridors. Grid 14C, depth 90 feet, contained a rusted ladder, a hidden route that had not appeared on any prior satellite or floor scans. Dr. Volkov stirred as she approached, his eyes wary and exhausted. "You're alone," he whispered, his voice trembling, body taut against the chains. Ghostline nodded once, never breaking eye contact. "I've already moved through this building." "Follow my lead." Every word was calculated to reassure without giving away any unnecessary detail. She guided him carefully, each movement orchestrated to avoid drone sensors and maintain thermal camouflage. Then the seismic alert sounded in her HUD. Ghostline froze, calculating. The system had detected movement in a restricted zone. The lockdown protocol initiated. The facility would seal its lower levels and flood them with inert gas within 22 minutes. Every path she had memorized, every contingency she had built, became an urgent race against time. The corridors she had traversed for hours now seemed to stretch longer, and the rhythmic pulse of the drones became an oppressive metronome. Ghostline's guilt rose, a silent weight pressing on her chest. She had acted without orders, putting herself, Dr. Volkov, and even the extraction team at risk. Yet every calculation she had made so far had proven correct. Her contingency planning, improvisational as it was, now offered the only viable route to survival. Ward's voice came faintly through the encrypted channel. "Keep moving. I see your signal. I trust you." The rare admission of trust from him strengthened her resolve, a quiet acknowledgement of the work he hadn't foreseen. The corridors twisted into an S shape, forcing them to crouch under exposed beams. Every metallic creak, every distant drone were amplified in the enclosed space. Ghostline's grip tightened on her pack strap as she led Volkov past a cluster of sentries, timing their steps with near-perfect precision. His fear was palpable, but her composure never faltered. She became the anchor in the chaos, every movement deliberate, every breath measured. As they approached the designated extraction point, Ghostline paused to update the map with her current position and potential exit paths. Her hand hovered over the transmitter, pressing each sequence with intent, aware that each byte of data could mean the difference between life and entrapment. Circuit confirmed receipt at command, routing aerial support to the precise coordinates. Ward's voice, firm yet edged with concern, guided the final approach. The pieces were in motion, a delicate choreography of ground presence and air cover, each step a gamble against the facility's tightening defenses. Ghostline exhaled silently, knowing the next minutes would define the mission. Every second was precious, every choice irreversible, and every shadow a potential threat. She had led them this far alone, but the canyon's labyrinth awaited with traps, drones, and unpredictable variables still ahead. The real test had only just begun, and the window to survive and extract Volkovas shrinking with every calculated heartbeat. Even with the partial map uploaded, the true danger of the kill box had yet to reveal itself, and Ghostline had only begun to navigate its deadly heart. Ghostline's fingers worked with meticulous precision, sliding the pressure-equalizing wedge between the seismic trigger floor panel and Dr. Volkov's restraints. The steel groaned under her manipulation, and she counted each microvibration, each subtle hum in the concrete beneath them. The inertial sensors were live, ready to seal the lower chambers at the slightest miscalculation. Volkov's breathing was shallow, ragged, but his eyes held a flicker of trust as he whispered, "You've done this before, haven't you?" Ghostline didn't answer, focusing instead on the wedge, the leverage, the small window of time they had. The lock gave a final click, and Volkov rose, the chains falling silently into the shadows. Relief was fleeting. Red strobes pulsed through the corridor, and Harlan's voice crackled over the intercom, calm but lethal. "You're cornered, Ghostline. Step out now." She pivoted, eyes narrowing, scanning the escape shaft 30 meters ahead. The rusted ladder promised salvation, but only if they could reach it. Harlan emerged from a side corridor, suppressed carbine leveled, every movement deliberate. "I won't let you leave with him," he said, advancing. Ghostline's hand found the small sidearm at her hip, a compact 5.56 millimeter suppressed carbine, the weight familiar and reassuring. She backed toward the ladder, keeping her body low, calculating the angles, the distances, the patrol timing of every remaining drone. She had led the extraction team to the perimeter, but the final stretch was entirely hers and Volkov's to navigate. The first shots rang out, muffled but precise. Ghostline returned fire, aiming to disable rather than kill, forcing Harlan backward through the red-flashed corridor. Her movements were fluid, a blend of calculated offense and defensive improvisation. Volkov flinched but stayed close, guided by her silent cues. Every step toward the ladder was a battle of inches, every exchange of fire a measure of control. Above them, drones swiveled and buzzed, their cameras tracking, but she had calculated the blind spots with near-perfect timing. Outside, Ward and Circuit monitored the situation, Raven 2 hovercraft at the ready. Ward's voice came through calm, tense but precise. "Fast rope extraction on your mark. Hold your position until we confirm path clear." Ghostline's eyes swept the corridor, noting every obstacle, every potential line of fire. "Package secure RTB, RTB," she transmitted, signaling her position. The tiltrotor craft hovered at canyon rim, rotors beating the air into a steady wind that promised deliverance if she could just reach it. Harlan lunged, and they collided near the shaft, the ladder rattling under their combined weight. Red emergency strobes lit the confined space, painting their faces in jagged, violent light. Gas hissed into the lower chambers, the inertial lockdown accelerating. Ghostline ducked, rolled, and forced Harlan toward the drone's patrol line. The quadrotor sentries scanned below, their targeting systems ready, and with a precise shove, she sent him into the path of a drone's camera-guided countermeasure. He went down, disarmed, and incapacitated. Volkov clung to her as she guided him up the ladder, the rusted metal groaning but holding under their combined weight. Ward's harnesses and fast rope system awaited, and with a nod from Ghostline, the team ascended. The canyon rim provided the final hurdle, a stretch of open air against wind gusts and rotor wash. Ward's hands steadied them both as they clipped into the harness, the tilt rotor lifting them above the canyon floor. Behind them, the facility shuddered. A chain reaction of collapsing rock and malfunctioning drones rippled outward, the canyon erupting in a cacophony of destruction. Debris tumbled in slow arcs, dust clouds choking the confined corridors they had just escaped. Ghostline held Volkov close, feeling the tremors through the harness, the chaos behind them marking both the end of the facility and the final test of their mission. As Raven 2 pulled them clear, Ward exhaled, tension finally yielding to awe. "You did it." He paused, words heavy with unspoken acknowledgement. Ghostline glanced at him, expression unreadable but satisfaction barely concealed. Mutual respect had replaced the friction of disbelief. Volkov, still catching his breath, met her gaze with gratitude and understanding, revealing silently that she had saved him before, in a shadow of events none else had known. The canyon's echo faded behind them, replaced by the rhythmic hum of the aircraft's rotors and the wind slicing past. Ghostline allowed herself a moment to exhale, to feel the weight of the impossible finally lifted. The mission had demanded every ounce of skill, courage, and resolve. And now, standing on the precipice of completion, she could see the full scope of what had been achieved. Above the canyon rim, the sun began to cast long shadows across the rock, the facility a smoldering ruin below. Ward's voice broke the silence. Steady now, reverent. Mission impossible. Not today. The team had survived the kill box, but the lesson lingered in war. Sometimes the lone voice that says, "I'm already in,"